What's up, Mike? How you doing, man?
Good, good. How's it going, man?
I'm doing great. You know what? I really appreciate you joining me on the show. Um, Lots to talk about, man. So as you know, I'm doing a series. Trying to do 4 episodes. How you've adapted during the pandemic, and yo, you're one of the people that I ran into during the pandemic, and I thought to myself, you know what? That's actually a pretty smart idea, developing a business around an existing skill and fulfilling a need to what people need right now, and that's eating, that's food. Um, but let's go all the way back. Talk to me about COVID 2020. It's March, pandemic hits, everybody's on lockdown.
Oh man.
Tell me about what's happening in your life. Tell me about how you've coped with that and how things have happened since.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think I told you about how everything kind of started, but back in January, I was having the time of my life. I was in Thailand. I was in actually Southeast Asia with my girl. And we were
Mhm.
traveling over the place. And then I don't know where my mom sent me a message like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And then my dad, who I don't really speak to a lot, is like, "I heard you're in China." He didn't know better. I heard you're in that area. Uh, and there's this virus going on. And I remember then it was like one or two cases or whatever. Like there was one that went to Thailand. There was one that went to Cambodia. One that went over there. And they kept freaking out, saying, "Get home now. This is happening. People are gonna die. It's ridiculous." And me and my girl were looking at it, we're like, "It's fine. It's fine. What's going on? Like it's nothing. Don't worry." And then as we started going around, we saw people in the airport starting to wear masks. We saw less people. We started to see some weird stuff. And I'm like, okay, this might be they started taking it serious over there. And then all the messages and all that stuff started happening with my parents. And then when it finally came back here, that's when in March, that's when it hit. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is not what I thought was gonna happen.
Mhm.
So it impacted me while I was traveling. That was one of the things that
So when were you actually on your way back? Like, were you already on your way back, or did you hear about it and then you
so
said, I gotta head back?
So our trip was from January like 2nd until like February like 18th or something like
Oh,
that. So
okay.
we stayed the whole time, but
Mhm.
it was about like January like 19th or something like that, that the first like little COVID, like, hey, by the way, there's this happening. And I think by the time that we were back, I think the next week after that, it was like, yeah, you guys got to get back now, or we're not gonna repatriate you or whatever, right? That's when things started to get kind of heavy.
Yeah,
So we
I
were
think
just thinking like, perfect. Sorry.
no, please. I think that's when things started to kind of get serious. Like over here in North America, whenever anything happens in China, we're like, whatever. It's gonna
Yeah.
end there. It's gonna start there and it's gonna end there. But then, COVID obviously did what it did, and it took over the rest of the world. So you get back, you're in the food industry,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and I
I'm
think
in
of
the restaurant.
restaurant industry, food industry, and I think of any industry that's being impacted by COVID, being impacted by, lack of travel restrictions.
Mhm.
Um, I think food is probably the industry that was impacted the most. So you get back, there's a pandemic ensuing. People are indoors now. People are wearing masks. Talk to me about the work situation. Talk to me about first thing you noticed when you got back home.
Yeah. When I got back home, actually, my restaurant hasn't been impacted yet. It was
Mhm.
still pre-lockdown or something. It was in a build-up to getting locked down. And then that's when shifts started to get reduced. I live on tips and stuff like that, so people stopped showing up because they were scared, or they would bring masks and stuff like that. And then the lockdown happened, and we're like, whoa, okay, what are we gonna do? We live downtown. We have this crazy amount of rent, right? We're not working. Me and my wife were both in the restaurant industry, so now we're just idle at home, just looking at each other like, what's the plan?
Mhm.
And thankfully, that's when like Serb got announced, and that's kind of been beneficial to us. Like it saved us basically, right? But I got another one worse for you that I think got hit worse than the restaurant industry. It's actually the hotel and the you know travel industry, I guess, because that's what my mom does. That's where my mom, she's a housekeeper. That's what she was doing before COVID hit. And then from night to day, it was like, okay, borders closed. That's it. And there's nothing else to do. And then she was working like 1 or 2 days a week or something like that. And that's when I started thinking, whoa, okay, I gotta keep her busy. I gotta My mom is the only thing that I have here in Canada, so I was always thinking I gotta keep her busy. I gotta take care of her somehow, you know. So that's when we started thinking about ideas, and that's kind of how the whole business. Even though sometimes it's kind of weird calling it for me a business, because I think of more of like a hustle or a hobby or just like an entertainment for my mom, right? Like it would be ideal if this thing can grow and eventually, buy like a storefront or maybe like a food truck or something like that, right? That would be the ideal thing. But yeah, restaurants got hit pretty bad. I feel like we're pretty us frontline people, like the servers and bartenders stuff like that. We've been able to survive. But if I was owning a restaurant, which is something that I want to do eventually, I would be terrified right now. Like this is probably the worst time to be a restaurant or small restaurant owner.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because what we're starting to see now is there are two different types of business owners, two different types of restaurants. It's the evolve or die,
Mm-hmm.
basically, right? And we're seeing, and some people can't evolve. They don't have the money for it. They don't have the infrastructure for it. Sometimes you don't have enough staff. You're not nimble enough. Um, but what are some of the things that you're seeing restaurants do now
Yeah.
in COVID that maybe impressed you and you thought, that's interesting. They're actually staying alive and staying afloat by doing something different.
Yeah. One thing that I liked about restaurants is always the numbers, right? Like there was always a certain thing about like how managers especially would like look at our sales and then we'll look at the labor and then we'll be like, we need to hit a certain percentage, blah, 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 in order to be effective. Because you can't be paying servers and bartenders just to hang around, just to serve 3 or 4 tables. It's kind of what's been happening during COVID is that the amount of people that we can let in has been reduced. So we don't need that much stuff to begin with. But the adaptability that I've seen from restaurants has been something that's I know has been driving people crazy. And I come in one day and it's like, okay, guys, this is the new rules. You got to sanitize and wash your hands. I'm like, okay. Next week come in, it's like, okay, now we got plexiglass. What's the next? And then, okay, now we're sanitizing the stations. Now we're doing this. Now we're doing that. And then fall came out, and then it was the whole thing with the patios and the tents and the heaters, and that's the there's always been a scramble. If I was a restaurant owner right now, I'm kind of glad that I'm be locked down. My restaurant is crumbling, but at least I know that like it's a bit of a calm of the storm. Like just focus on takeout. There's nothing else that I can do. I can't worry about people, you know, being too picky about it's too cold or it's too hot, things like that, right? Like it's challenging for sure.
Yeah, and as a person who's actually in the restaurant industry, you're a bartender, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm a bartender, a server bartender. I float between tasks, but
Sure, cool.
always my
You're a
house.
server bartender. Have you made it out to different restaurants and just you and your wife gone out to restaurants because you understand what it's like? Have you made time to go?
So yes and no. We were careful. Like we still doing the whole COVID thing. My girl's really into like being careful. She makes me wash my hands every time I come home from work. When it first started, we used to like literally wash all our groceries and stuff like that. I don't know if you did that, but like she made me get like dishwasher and like, okay, get the apple, wash it. Get the frozen strawberries, wash it. I was like, okay, like I get it. I don't know if it's maybe because I'm a guy or something, but I still take precautions. But she took it overboard. Um,
Hey, that's why we have women in our lives, man, to take care of us. Shout out to your girl. Shout out to wifey.
I know. My mom, I was exact same way with my mom. Actually, when this whole thing started, I didn't see my mom for like 3 to 4 months, which I buy her groceries, but I literally physically didn't see her. I would buy groceries, leave it at the door, knock on it, and be like, "Okay, it's ready now. I'll talk to you." And I think her birthday was in June, and I like FaceTimed her, which apparently like we broke both our hearts. Like we can't see each other. It's literally the only time that we like our birthdays and Christmas and stuff like that is like the special time where we get to see each other, right? So I was scared because she's like 64 years old, right? She's 64. She has cholesterol problems. Like I'm worried that if she were to catch us, she might be one of the ones that, you know. Um, but yeah, it's been tough, man.
I can imagine, and everybody's been impacted different ways. Like I haven't seen in the middle of this whole thing, I wasn't able to see my family, my parents for months on end. I didn't see anybody. I'm living on my own. I couldn't see my friends. I
Mhm.
wasn't seeing any coworkers. the only people I was seeing was the cashier at the grocery store, and they're all wearing masks, and everybody was afraid of talking to each other, and people are afraid of passing each other on the sidewalk. So I mean, it was hard for people in different ways, and no one had it harder than others. Everybody had it in their own way. Everybody was dealing with depression, or a form of depression, I guess, in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned two really interesting things that I wanted to kind of go back to. One thing you said was the idea to come up with the business, and we'll get into the business in a second, was really just to keep your mom busy, and you were really just thinking of different things that you could do to keep your mom busy. And the second thing was, you don't really think of it as a business, you think of it as a hobby. And I heard that, and I thought, you know what, that's the sign of you doing something that doesn't feel like work, which eventually turns into a business. Because you look at anybody who has a business now that they run on their own, it started as a hobby, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just love to design skateboards, so I'm just going to do it. And then they do it, and then all of a sudden you have a store in LA, and that's what you're doing. But before we get too far into that, you brought up June, and I think it was June or July. I'm at the ball court with a friend of mine. His name is also Mike. Shout out to Mike. And we're playing.
That's true, by the way. Like the week after that.
Sorry.
He ordered some empanadas. I think like the week after we saw it. Yeah. So he was one of the first customers to be to.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like,
shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike. And like, it's such a funny story because, and I think about this a lot. Like, I think of like the universe and energy and things like that. And like, if you don't believe in that, that's your thing. But I just think like nothing is accident. And Mike and I, one day, he hits me up. He's like, yo, do you want to play ball? I go to his office. We hang out for a little bit. He's like, yo, there's a ball court down the street. Let's go. We take the ball, we go down there, because him and I were playing in a basketball league earlier in the year, and we were just getting into the playoffs, and we just hit the number 1 seed. We just beat the number 1 team, and we took the number 1 seed. I think I told you that.
Yeah. I was hyped. That's why I went to the ball court. That's exactly why I went to the ball. I was hyped. I remember seeing him like, I'm gonna get some shots up by myself. I don't have to talk to nobody. I don't have to get into anybody's face. I don't want to play defense. I just want to shoot.
Yeah.
And then I go over there and I see literally like half of Toronto playing basketball. And I'm like, okay, well. And then I see you like hanging out somewhere by the court. I don't think you were playing. And I'm like, oh, what's up, Dre? How you doing?
Yeah. So by that time when you saw us, we were already there maybe for like an hour, and we were playing 21. Like I wasn't comfortable enough to play with these guys. Were playing like shirts and skins, and it's like it's June. Like I get it, man. You guys are young but I'm not playing shirts and skins. Like I still want to see my family.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like, it's funny because Mike and I, we were tired. We're sitting in the grass, and then I see you walk over to me, and I'm like, I recognize. Do I know that guy? That guy? You're like walking towards me like you know me.
Yeah.
And then we were just talking about, Mike and I were just talking about getting some food. Yo, I'm hungry. Let's go get some food. Let's go do something. I don't know. What do you feel like eating? I don't know. And then you walk over, and what happened? Tell that side of what happened.
I think it was like the first week that I think it came from my mom's house, because she just did a batch of like empanadas. We didn't have an Instagram page or a business, or I didn't even know how much I was going to charge or anything. I just had a bin with some test empanadas. I was like, I need to figure out if this is the thing that I want to do, and I'm going to get my girl to try it. I'm going to get my friends to try it. All these restaurant people, these chefs and servers, I'm going to get them to try it. So I'm just going to take these, like, I think it was like 20 empanadas that I had at the time. That's it. And I had him in my car, literally, as I'm on my way to the ball court. I'm like, I'm gonna leave him here for a little bit. I'm gonna go shoot some hoops, see what happens. And I see you. And then we were talking to each other, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh, you guys are hungry? Wait, hold on a second, try this out. Yeah, I was just try this out. Like, it's, normally they're fresh, normally they're hot. This is what it is. Try to explain it to you. But I'm like, you just try it. Tell me what you think. And then I think I got you guys. I mean, you've ordered a couple. I hope I got you hooked already.
Buddy, listen, let me tell you something right now. And by the way, like, I got a bag of empanadas. Like, you came, like, okay, I'm getting excited. Slow down. So here's the thing. I love Spanish people, Spanish culture. My first trip ever in life on a plane was going to Central America. I went to Panama.
Oh wow, I haven't been
Yes.
there yet.
Oh man, beautiful. Where are you from? Are you from where is it again? Argentina, Colombia?
It's close. It's Uruguay.
Oh, Uruguay. Yeah,
Uruguay.
Uruguay, Uruguay. Yes, one of my yeah, one of my the blue jerseys. I know.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks
la
they're
celeste,
Argentina.
the light blue. Yeah,
Yeah.
celeste. That's our soccer team.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hardest
one of my
playing soccer team in the whole FIFA.
exactly. My one of my really good friends is Uruguayan. Their whole family, you know, they moved from Uruguay and they brought their kids over. So I understand, I guess, Uruguayans and you guys, the mate and all of that stuff. So I get it, man. I know the culture a little bit, but I went to Panama and I remember we were on this island. We were on this island called what was it called again?
Not a
Bocas del Toro.
Yeah, that's what I want to go.
Oh,
It's beautiful.
beautiful.
I
I
heard it's beautiful.
highly. There's three islands actually. There's three islands. We were on island Isla Bastimento. So there's three islands there, and where we went there. My friend and I. Shout out to Patrick. We went there. We were there for like 3 weeks. We're over there over New Year's. This is in 2012, and we're drunk one night. Next morning we get up. There's a food stand. I go to the food stand. Dude selling empanadas. I've never had this thing before. I don't know what it is. Sure, it kind of looks like a patty. I'm Jamaican. Kind of looks like a patty. There's meat in there. Okay, great. I can recognize this. I'll eat it. And then I ate it and I fell in love with it. So fast forward to 2020, I see you. You tell me you have empanadas. I'm like, oh, I love empanadas. Absolutely. Get it out of the car. You bring it over. You bring it over in one of these. And I tried it. And you were like, yo, tell me if it's good. Tell me if you like. And Mike and I are like, are you kidding me? Like, yes, I will buy these right now from you. I will buy these right now. And I think we've both bought 2 or 3 different batches. I don't know how many I bought. I think I bought all beef. So tell me what it is that you guys sell. And then I want to get into the story of how you decided to do this with your mother and like where this all came about.
Okay. Before we go to that, I don't want to educate you, but I just want to say something about the empanada stuff, which most, you like Spanish stuff, most Spanish places in South America, at least that I know, have different versions of empanadas. You see what I'm saying? So like if you try the Panamanian empanadas, they probably are different from the ones that you tried. The same thing with like Colombian empanadas. Colombian empanadas usually have corn flour instead of the regular wheat flour. They're all completely, Salvadorians have pupusas, Mexicans have a bunch of other stuff. They're all different, but they're all empanadas, which literally just means stuffed stuff with bread in it. And empanadas literally means inside bread stuff. Like that's literally the translation. So they're all different. The thing that makes these ones a little bit different is that they're specifically Uruguayan empanadas from Empanadas Uruguay. Like they're in Uruguay. There's a lot of beef. There's a lot of cows. So the beef ones is like the signature one. It's what I grew up eating since I was a kid. So part of the story of like how things got started is that like, you know, one day I was craving empanadas during COVID. And I talked to my mom. I was like, Mom, do you remember how to make empanadas? Can you make it? Remember the ones I used to make? Yeah. So she made it. And then, you know, I had some over and then I had some friends over. And then during COVID, I think like right before lockdown, I had some friends over. It's like, oh, my mom's going to make some empanadas tomorrow. I'll bring some. It's like, oh, I can't have it. I'm vegetarian. So I was like, okay. That's the first one. Then I was thinking, okay, my mom makes these spinach and cheese ones that I can ask her to do. Boom. And then I had another friend who was vegan. And then that's when it really put me for a twist. And it was like, okay, I don't know. We definitely don't have any vegan stuff because Uruguayans, at least that I know, there's not a vegan thing. It's not a thing.
Not really. Not yet. Give it a couple years.
Exactly. I think that's one of my ideas for a restaurant. Actually, is called like the future Uruguayan. You know, because we have to let go of beef. I personally believe that for environmental reasons and stuff like that, but we can talk about that later. We gotta let go of beef. There's 9 million cows in my country. There's only 3 million people. How's that possible?
That's crazy.
Uruguayans eat red meat like 4 to 5 times a week, something ridiculous like that. When you get married, you have an asado. When you get a baby christening, you have an asado. When your soccer team is playing, you have asado. That's like a thing, which is just red meat. It's barbecue, basically. And as culture, as attached I am to that culturally, I think it's time for us to evolve, right? Like it's time for us to adapt, and that's not sustainable and stuff like that, right? That said, now I'm selling beef empanadas because it's my culture. It's what I grew up eating, but I want to introduce like the spinach and cheese and the vegan ones and stuff like that.
And let me just say really quickly is that I appreciate that you have. I think I have. Wait, what do I have right here? I think this is the vegan one.
Yeah, that's the vegan one. I can tell by the dough because it doesn't have any egg.
Exactly, this is the vegan one, and then I think there's this. Yeah, this is the spinach one right here.
Maybe
is this or is this the beef one?
It might be the beef one. I should have like a little dot on one side. If it's red, is the beef. There you go, red dot by your hand on the other side.
Oh, there. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, so that's the beef one.
Okay, so this is the beef one. I appreciate that you have the vegan one, but the beef one is just killer, man.
The beef one is. I'm not ready to. That's what I said. Like I would love to be vegan. In my mind, I would love to be vegan, but I can't let go of beef, man. I'm trying. Vegans out there. I promise you, I am trying.
You know what? You know what? And I want to get back to the story in a second, but it's funny because just earlier today, I was listening to. Have you heard of this podcast called "How I Built This"?
No, I haven't. No, I'm just getting into podcasts now.
Okay, it's a great podcast hosted by Guy Raz. It's on NPR. Anyway, they talk to entrepreneurs of some of the largest companies in the world about how they built their company. So I was listening to an episode today, and it was the founder of Impossible Foods. Now, you may or may not know much about Impossible Foods, but they want to eliminate meat consumption by creating alternatives that taste like meat.
Yeah.
Or at least like feel like meat, have the same texture.
Is this the one where they're doing stuff in the lab and stuff like that, like growing hormones and I've read stuff like that.
In a sense, yeah. So what they're essentially doing is they're like using different like plant-based, like soy or different types of elements from plants, and they're trying to manipulate it so that when you bite into it, it has the same texture as a beef burger, but it doesn't contain any animals at all. Anyway, Impossible Foods, they're now in grocery stores and they have like ground beef, but it's ground Impossible beef meat type stuff. So that would be interesting if like you guys could make like an Impossible beef empanada, because that's nowhere right now. Like I can almost guarantee you that doesn't exist. Like an Impossible beef, because like Tim Hortons has that. Tim Hortons has Beyond is the other one. So there's Beyond and then there's Impossible. Those are the two, those Pepsi and Coke of like alternative meat. But anyway, I digress. So so let's go back. So let's say, you're in the kitchen, you're there, your friends are over, one of your boys doesn't eat meat for whatever reason, drop him. And he so you're asking your mom, hey, let's do this. So what was the moment, like bring me into the moment where you decided, or your mom decided, or your wife decided, or all three of you decided, maybe this is something that we could do for a business that keeps my mom busy. Maybe we can make a little bit of money. Maybe we could feed some people. Talk to me about that decision.
Yeah. So during the brainstorm ideas, I remember I'm a night owl. I usually do my thinking like late at night. I stay up, play video games or whatever, but that's when ideas come at me. And that's when, and another thing is that I enjoy cooking. I literally enjoy cooking, like on my own. I follow recipes, or sometimes I don't. I try something different, right? So I try to make these empanadas myself. Back when I was thinking about this brainstorming stuff, and for the love of me, I couldn't get them. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do them closed. Like it was too thin. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I couldn't replicate what my mom did. So that's why I said, I can't be the one who makes these. Let me be the brain power behind, let me see if I can get the recipes going so I can tell my mom, hey, remember the one that we had? Can you add a little bit of spice? Can you make a spinach and cheese one? Can you make a vegan one? What about a one with sweet potato? Let's add this, let's add that, let's do that, let's do this. So the recipes are hers with a twist of my ingenuity, I guess you could say, right? When I started thinking about how we can do it for a business is when I got people like you, right? Who tried these empanadas and they're like, whoa, these are really good. When can I get them? I wasn't even selling it. I'm like, when can I get them? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, give me a couple days. I'll figure something out. I know. Even maybe the first one that you tried, they probably like were a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger or a little bit inconsistent. They probably, we were just beginning back then. Now, I'm fairly confident to say that like, we have progressed to a point where we have a working system. Like we at least were organized. Like I even, I got business cards made. I opened an Instagram page. I'm doing giveaways and stuff like that to try to build an online presence. And I gotta say that like since lockdown, since now I'm not working at restaurants, I'm able to focus on this. This has been growing. This has been growing enough to the point where, my goal, which again, it wasn't to be a millionaire, it wasn't to start a business, it wasn't to start a restaurant. It was to message my mom and be like, hey, you gotta make some for my friend tomorrow. Can you make them? Yes, of course. Can you make it next week? Can you make this? Now I'm like, hey, we got orders for the whole week. Can you fulfill? Like, are you okay with this? And she messages me and says, is there anything coming up? Because I want to get ready. I'm going to clean. I'm going to prep, which makes me happy because it means that I accomplished my goal. Which again, just to keep her busy.
Yeah, of course. And so we know the objective behind, and that's great, by the way. I'm so glad that you guys are having success. And I remember at the time because Mike and I, like my friend Mike and I, we're both like very hardworking, very driven. We were both like coming up with your business plan right there for you. We were like, we'll design a Shopify page for you. Like I'll get a video out there for you. We'll do that. And you're like, yo, like I just like, I don't know yet, guys. I don't right. Like you were just like, dude, like I don't know. I have no idea. Like this was obviously like 4 months ago. Right. I think about 4 months ago, but I'm really glad to hear that things are progressing in the right direction. And I could see that you're doing contests and giveaways and working with influencers. And I'm so happy. And I'm letting everybody know about the empanadas. And I think they're great. I know how you feel. And we know how the people feel. I'm the people, but also people that are buying things from you. And how does your mom feel? I'm not concerned, but I'm interested in how is your mom feeling? She's not working, or maybe not working as much. She's getting to do something she's done her entire life, I imagine. And she's making money and she's working with her son. What's the relationship been like between the two of you? How is your mom feeling about all this?
Well, the thing is, exactly right. Like when lockdowns first happened and we were all like in limbo, as in like what's gonna happen. That's when, not seeing her for like 3-4 months, not getting to do anything for like 3 to 4 months. That's when I noticed that like she was depressed. She was getting depressed. She was starting to get like, she was obviously scared. There's a freaking pandemic going on outside. She was scared. She was depressed. She was very isolated. And then I decided to break the rules one day. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go see her. I'm gonna pitch this idea to her. Tell me what she thinks. And then she said, yes, I am on board. Let's do it. Let's try it. Why not? And that's when we started testing. And now I could see it in her eyes every time I go pick up. I literally have to go pick them up every day and then deliver to anybody. And I've never made an empanada to this day. She still makes them by hand, right? I could feel the pride. Like she's proudful. Like she has pride on every single empanada. She goes, sometimes if they open up or if they look ugly, she puts them to the side and lets me eat them. That's why I eat empanadas every day. Because no, they're not good enough. Like if this is the product that I'm gonna be selling, this is what I want to do. Like she's almost like she's gonna retire soon. She's 64, 60. She thinks she has to be 65 to retire, and she's already thinking like, you know what? I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna do empanadas on the side, and then do a little bit. Like this is her plan going forward now. COVID has created an opportunity for her to start something, and then kind of change her life a little bit.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm really glad you mentioned that, and I'm really, really glad that your mom has almost found a calling. Like, hey, this thing that I've been able to do my whole life and my son really enjoys, other people can enjoy too. Like I can almost give away like a gift to other people and they can enjoy it. And the idea that every time I look at one of these, I have the image in my mind, this little Spanish woman is like in a kitchen folding and pressing and
I make videos on my stories and I have a video posted on my Instagram thing, on her Instagram thing, of her literally sometimes with her friend there. She's washing dishes, they're rolling the dough, She's cooking the stuffing. Like this is literally just the old little lady working by herself or sometimes with her friend in a kitchen making these things, right?
I love that. And the idea, just to kind of like cap off my thought there, the idea that every time I look at this, I know that your mom made it. It makes me enjoy it more because it feels like I was in your kitchen. As corny as that might sound, it sounds like I was there with you. And the idea that I can support somebody who's doing something that I actually like doing makes me feel special, and it makes me just want to invest even further into you guys. So congratulations for you and my mom for doing this. And I love the empanadas, and I hope I tell people about them. And obviously Mike, my buddy Mike, like when I buy them from him, when I buy them from you, I send him a picture. I'm like, yo, buddy, like hit him up, get some more. Really quickly. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna twist the conversation a little bit because this kind of opened my eyes to one of the biggest challenges in the restaurant industry. As silly as it sounds, that my mom making empanadas is kind of really brought this idea, is that there's kind of, people don't know about it, but there's kind of a war going on right now in the restaurant industry, which is small individual business against fast food, big chain corporation. It's kind of scary now, especially with COVID, right? Because I drive around, delivering empanadas a lot. And sometimes it's crazy because I see A&W, Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger King, A&W, Starbucks, LCBO, Walmart's, and everything else in between is all closed or tapered off or takeout only, curbside pickup, which means they probably can't even survive, right? So it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary going forward. Like I know it's kind of a limbo. Things are going to go back to normal. So I don't believe all the conspiracies about how it's all going to be big business anytime soon. I know that there'll be a chance where small businesses will rebound and new ones will open up, and you never know. Rent prices might get low enough where people like me can go and buy a store and open up at Mamanadas, right? But I think there is like a big issue going on right now and it's up to the consumer, right? It's up to the consumer to make a shift in their head to be like, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to order McDonald's today. I'm going to try the place down the street and try something different, which might be a little bit more expensive, but it's made by somebody with love, or it's more nutritious or something like that.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you. And look, like humans are inherently creatures of habit, right? We'll do what we've always done. Case in point, your mom. She's always made empanadas. She's doing it now. And this is, to teach her now how to make a cake or something will probably be a little bit difficult, or whatever it is, something that's maybe a little bit more difficult. But especially now in 2020 with the apps and everybody's at home, nobody wants to think. And it's convenience. It's all about convenience. If somehow you guys were on DoorDash, that would be amazing. And I'm sure there'd be a lot more people that would purchase from you instead of you driving around and spending your gas and all of that. But you're right, man. You're right. There is a war, I guess, and the war is not so much restaurants and small. It's corporations and the big conglomerates and the billionaires versus the little guy. And you look at an Amazon versus your local convenience store. Or your local general store that has a couple of items that you might go to. People are just gonna go to Amazon and they're just gonna buy whatever they want from Amazon instead of just walking down the street to see if that place has it. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing during this pandemic. I want to thank you for your time and thank you for being transparent and opening up and letting us know a little bit about the business and what's going on behind the scenes. And you've definitely been one of those people to me that have adapted in this time when everybody's just like, I'm just going to wait till next year, or I'm not going to do anything, or I'm just going to quit. Yourself and your mother and whoever else is helping you behind the scenes, your mom's friends or relatives or whatever it is, you guys are absolutely an example. And whether you see it or not, or think it or not, people that are watching you are being inspired by what you guys are doing. So I want to congratulate you guys for that.
Thank you. That's uplifting. That's nice. Nice to hear.
Of course, man. One last thing I want to get from you. The floor is yours. Let's say, give me 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long you want to go. What have you learned this year during this pandemic, starting this business, seeing the success in your business? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about this year? And what advice would you have for other people that are maybe going through a similar time and don't really know what to do next?
Yeah. Well, my thing is that, like, I have a PS4, I have a Switch, and I have a PS1. I have a whole bunch of video games, and you can only play so many video games, man. I am so tired of playing video games. It got to the point where I'm just like, during lockdown, especially in March or something like that, I was like, I can only play. I'm tired. I'm tired of these games. Time for me to do something. So I got into fitness. I got into this. I got into that. Right now is the perfect time. You have a window right now to chase or to do something that you've always, maybe if you fail, it's okay. At least you tried something. You entertain yourself for a little bit, right? That was the whole idea behind the empanadas thing. And the reason why I'm successful is because it's successful to my standard. Like my goals are very low. Entertain my mother. That's literally my goal. So I was able to achieve that. So as long as you set a goal that's relatively achievable, at least do something during this pandemic, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to get my girl inspired to work out. I'm trying to inspire myself to eat a little bit healthier now that there's no distractions, that I can't just go down the street. I really should just stay in and cook my own food and stuff like that, right? Might as well try to work on the things that you've always wanted to achieve, right? Mm-hmm. That's my little thing. I don't know.
That's great, man. And I hope 2021 is only going to go up from here, right? If this is what you guys could do in the middle of a pandemic, when no one's making any money, when no one's going anywhere, what are you going to do next year when hopefully maybe we're out again and we're doing things again, and people are more willing to say, let me spend some money. Let me go here. Let me do that.
You know what I miss, man? I was thinking about it right after I saw you, was that around this time I will be doing like corporate parties and stuff like that behind the bar, or like it's a server or something like that. And every New Year's Eve, I haven't celebrated New Year's Eve with my friends in 8-9 years maybe since I started restaurants, because I always booked this one gig where I make enough money that it was worth it. But I remember looking up and it was like 11:55, and you would just see faces. I will be making a drink. Okay, rum and coke, $7. Okay, vodka soda, $7. See you later. And then sometimes I would take a step back and look, and then you see everybody's eyes just looking at you. You have like 7 to 14 people in front of you fighting for space. Mm-hmm. I miss that. I'm like, I don't think we're gonna get that back. And you can dwell on that, right? Like I can dwell on that, and I don't think restaurants are gonna get back to what they were. Clubs are definitely not gonna get back to what they were. So we can dwell on that and remember the good times, but adapt. We gotta adapt and figure out, how we're gonna party, how we're gonna, how we're gonna do things from now on, right? So that's what I'm excited to see, what the young, new entrepreneurs, the new ideas that are gonna come out of that. I'm excited.
You're totally right, man. And like we said in the beginning of the episode, evolve or die.
Yeah.
It's evolve or die. We're humans, and if we couldn't evolve past cavemen, dinosaurs, the ice age, we wouldn't be here today. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to evolve. Michael, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Appreciate the look. If there's ladies that are watching this, the way to my heart, my love language is come to my door with food. This dude showed up with food. Mm-hmm. Michael, thank you for your time, man. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, bro. I'll see you.